Hey, how's it going? I'm Seth, and this is my Orzhov Bat Lifegain deck. So for my commander, I've got Zorlian, Cosmos Color, 3-drop 3/3 with Flying and Vigilance, already really good value out of that. And whenever a bat I control attacks, I gain a life, so for each bat I attack with, I gain 1 life for that bat. And then when she enters or attacks, I can pay Orzhov and 2 life, and I can return a card with permanent card with mana value 3 or less from my graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it, so the next time it were to be exiled or destroyed, it instead just simply goes in exile. I had a lot of fun building this deck. This was a deck I built over the summer after Bloomburrow came out, and doesn't have a lot of Bloomburrow cards in it, but I just had a lot of fun with it, and I think it works really, really well. So getting right into it, we're going to start off with the ramp. So we've got Soul Ring, Orzhov Signet, basic ramp, and we've got Dark Writ as well. This is fine, just, pay 1 black mana for 3 black mana, and then also 3 Tree City. This is really good later game when I have a bunch of bats out, and I can just pay 2 mana and add a bunch of mana of either white or black or whatever I need at that point. But yeah, for ramp, it's pretty basic. Not a whole lot to go off of. Next up, we've got draw. So for some draw and just like overall value, I guess, we've got Norden's Wellspring. Whenever a creature I control dies, I scry 1 and put an oil counter on it. So letting me scry is really great, and then I can later remove some oil counters to draw some cards. Darkstraw Augur, not only get to play this one, but I can also cast it for, in addition with its offspring cost, which will give me 2 of them. It will allow me to reveal the top card of my library, and I lose life equal to the card's mana value, but I put it into hand. And if I have, this with the offspring, then I do that twice before my draw step. Just, wheeling through my deck quicker. Ripples of Undeath, right after my draw step, I mill 3 cards, and then I can pay 1 mana and 3 life, and I can put one of those cards back into my hand. So this is really good if, it doesn't have to be a permanent card. So off of Zorlian, I can only return permanent cards off of her. So if I mill maybe like a sorcery or a board wipe that I want, then I can just bring that back with Ripples of Undeath. Or if it is a permanent above mana value 3, then this is really good for that. Black Marker Connections, along with drawing cards, it's also really good for getting creatures out and ramping as well, because it allows me to, after I draw, I can pay life to then create treasures, draw cards, and create 3/2 shapeshifters, and those shapeshifters will count as bats, which is really cool. So, yep, that's it for drawing. Next up, we've got some token generation here. So, Lunar Convocation, at the beginning of each of my end steps, if I gain life, each opponent loses a life, and then if I gained and lost life, then I create a bat, and I can pay 2 life to draw cards. So yet again, this kind of falls into the draw category, but it allows me to, I usually gain life, I'm attacking with bats. I can then pay life, draw a card, and also get another bat at the end of my turn. Regal Bloodlord, if I gain life, I make a bat on my end step, really great. Desecrated Tomb, whenever a creature card leaves my graveyard, I make a bat. So off of Zorlian or any other recursion thing that I have, getting bats, really great value. Mirkwood Bats is whenever I create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses a life. So this is more ping damage off of the bats that I create, but even then, it's still a really good card. Skeletal Vampire, when I play this, I create 2 bats, and then I can sacrifice a bat to create 2 more bats, which, yeah, it's pretty great. And then I can also sacrifice bats to regenerate Skeletal Vampire. And then finally, for tokens, we've got Legion Loyalty, which gives all of my creatures Myriad. So this is great because not only it creates tokens that will then die, so like, I get a bunch of attackers that I'm not going to have to worry about later, but also off of Zorlian, I can have it work as I declare Zorlian triggers first, and then Myriad triggers, and then Myriad will resolve before Zorlian resolves, so I can be like, or I guess the way it works is I create all of those tokens off of Myriad, because if you don't know what Myriad does, when you attack an opponent, if you have multiple other opponents, then you create a copy of that creature attacking your other opponents. So if I have 2 opponents and I swing at one of them with Zorlian, or Zorlian's a bad example because she's legendary, but if I swing at them with, we'll say, Skeletal Vampire, I will then create a copy of Skeletal Vampire that will swing at the other opponent that I'm not swinging at, and then at the end of combat, that copy of Skeletal Vampire will be sacrificed at that point. However, because of the way the stack works, I can have the tokens enter, and then Zorlian's trigger happen whenever a bat I control attacks. I gain a life, so I just get a lot of life gain. It's really great. Excuse me. Next up, we've got some Lifegain. So Kaya's Wrath, it's a board wipe, but also Lifegain. I destroy all creatures, and then I gain a life for each creature destroyed that way. Each creature I control destroyed this way. So even if I don't like have a bunch of creatures out, or maybe I do, I'm just not in a great spot during the game, then playing this will help, reset the board and also give me some value out of it. Life Creed Duo, just whenever a creature I control enters, I gain a life. Vault of the Archangel will give creatures I control lifelink and death touch. Really, really great to have. And then Debt to the Deathless can also be a finisher, but each opponent loses 2 times X life, and I gain life equal to the amount lost this way, which is really, really great, especially if I have, more mana later game. Play this, deal damage to my opponents, and, get a ton of health. Shadow Spear gives a quick creature +1/+1 trample lifelink. Since Zorlene doesn't have lifelink, usually this goes onto her pretty easily, unless I've got a bigger bat. And then for 1 mana, whether this is equipped or not, for 1 mana, I can make permanents my opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible. This can be really crucial for removal, especially losing indestructible, because the board wipes I have are pretty much all destroy. I don't have farewell in here or anything, so in the event that my opponents have indestructible, I can just get rid of that with Shadow Spear. Really great life gain. Next, I guess you could argue that these are finishers or more just paying damage through life gains. So Enduring Tenacity and Sanguine Bond are basically the same thing. It gives me, whenever I gain life, target opponent loses that much life. And Enduring Tenacity is great because it comes in as a creature, and then if it were to die, it just comes back as an enchantment. So having both of these out at the same time are really good. And then Starscape Cleric is whenever I gain a life, each opponent loses 1 life. Now the reason this is really good, along with these, like they're basically on the same level, because Zorlene makes it so that each bat is 1 life whenever they attack, which means they're all separate triggers, which means Starscape Cleric gets those separate triggers. So if I have 5 bats out and I swing with all 5 of those bats, this will then happen 5 times, and so will these. So it's pretty much the same if we're just counting the attack trigger off of the bats. So that's really good for ping damage and just getting my opponents low. Usually that's how the deck is supposed to work, is rather than, oh, I'm swinging a million bats at you, it's I'm swinging bats at you, gaining a bunch of life, and then you're losing a bunch of life before my bats can even have, even have to do damage. And part of that is because of this card right here. This is a really great card to have in the deck. Reconnaissance allows me to swing out, get the attack trigger off of Zorlene, and then just remove my creatures from combat. Really great. It really takes the pressure off of me, and if I do just need life gain, and if I don't want to deal damage to my opponents, I just want to build up myself, I just have this out, swing out, gain a bunch of life, fall back, it is what it is. And if I do end up having Starscape Cleric or Enduring Tenacity or Sanguine Bond out, that allows me to get that damage through even without having to do combat, then it's even better. We've also got Maha, it's Feathers Knight, which makes my creatures really, really easy to kill. Especially, I don't have a bunch of huge creatures in here. I'm mainly just getting, at most like 3/3 bats out. So having all of my creatures be basically a 1-hit kill, it helps me a lot. Aclazot's Deepest Betrayal. This allows me to make some more bat tokens by making my opponents discard. If they discard a land, I make bats, and then when he dies, he transforms into a land that I can later bring back. But he's really good, especially because he counts as a bat. And Essence Channeler. If I gain, or as long as I've lost life this turn, it has Flying and Vigilance, and whenever I gain life, I put a counter on it. If I get this out early game, it gets pretty huge pretty quickly, and then when it dies, I put its counters on creature I control. So if I've got Shadow Spear on Zorlene, and this guy, he's just ripping at him, and then he ends up dying, that's fine, because I'll just get all of those counters onto Zorlene with, lifelink, assuming I have Shadow Spear out, or just another creature that has lifelink, and get a lot of the value out of that. And finally, Etchings of the Chosen. It's just Anthem. It enters, I choose a creature type, and then I can sacrifice a creature of the chosen type and give another creature indestructible till end of turn. So, yet again, with Shadow Spear, if I board wipe, I can then use Etchings of the Chosen to create, to give my stuff indestructible. But with Shadow Spear, I can make only my opponents lose the hexproof and indestructible. So I keep my board and they lose theirs. Next, we'll do some protection. So for protection, we've got Take the Shield, just gives indestructible and lifelink till end of turn, and I put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. Unbreakable Formation, creatures I control gain indestructible till end of turn, and if I do it during my main phase, I put a counter on all of those creatures as well. And then finally, Cladsteel Kieran, which has saved my butt way too many times. It makes it so that if I equip this to a creature, I cannot lose the game and my opponents cannot win the game. So there have been a few times where I've played this, equipped it to a creature I had. It doesn't really matter what creature it was, but equipped it to a creature I controlled and stopped myself from losing, and I went into negative life, but I still wasn't able to lose. That's just how the game works. But yeah, this is a really fun card to have, especially if I'm not having the greatest game and I don't have a ton of life gain. If I'm just able to get this out and protect the creature that it's equipped to, usually I can maybe pull through. And then finally, we've just got some removal. So we've got Seal from Existence, which is really good because since it's a 3-drop, I can just bring it back with Zorleen if it were to be removed. But it's a 3-drop with Ward 3 that exiles a permanent. For just being a simple exile enchantment, having Ward 3 is huge because it makes it that much more difficult to try to destroy this thing by itself, which is really great. And then, like I said, I can just bring it back with Zorleen if it were to get removed. Damn, just regular board wipe, and same with Starfall Invocation, regular board wipe. But if I were to gift a card, I can also destroy all creatures and then bring a creature I control back. So along with Etchings of the Chosen, if I gave my stuff indestructible, maybe I didn't have enough mana or I didn't have enough creatures to sacrifice to give something indestructible with Starfall Invocation, I can just bring it back anyways. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then I did used to have Aetherios, the Shroud Veiled in this deck, which was really great. It allowed me to put coin counters on creatures I controlled with finality counters on them. That way, if they were to die, rather than being exiled, I would just bring them back regularly. However, I took him out and I put him in my Nihilor deck just because I thought it was a little funnier having the whole theft thing, and it makes it so this deck is a little more tough to play. I feel like I relied on him too heavily when he was out on the board, so it just helps me work around it and find newer, better ways to play with this deck. But anyways, yeah, I have a lot of fun playing with Zorleen. She's a blast to have on the battlefield, and just she can do really, really fun stuff with all the life gain that I have in the deck. Anyways, that's about it. You can find this deck and my others on Architect, and that's about it. Have a good one.